And that's the end of the first half. As the teams head to the locker room, the Spartans lead the Bulldogs by a score.
You guys stink.
Geez, Coach, we're only down a couple of points.
No, I mean you guys really smell. You need to hit the showers. And here, I got every one of you new bars of soap from the Sterling Soap Company. Each bar is artisan crafted using natural ingredients and essential oils. They also have shave soaps, colognes, beard balm, and a whole lot more. Now get in there.
But Coach, we have another half to play.
I don't care. I can't stand to be around you.
A few minutes later.
All right, bring it in tight. You guys are still playing terrible, but you're smelling great out there. Now listen, you're going to need to stock up for the rest of the season. We got a lot of tough games left. So go to sterlingsoap.com after the game. That's STIRLING soap.com. You got that?
Yes, Coach.
Great. Sterlingsoap.com on 3. 1, 2, 3. Sterlingsoap.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, old sports, and welcome to another episode of the Hello, Old Sports podcast on the Sports History Network. This is Dan Newman, joined as always by my brother and co-host Andrew Newman. And we are very happy to have with us. We've had a really sort of a good string of author interviews over the last couple episodes, and we've got another one today. We've got Mr. Yaron Weitzman, who is previously the author of Tanking to the Top, which was a story about the ascent of the Philadelphia 76ers, and then kind of a little bit of maybe a mirror image with his book, A Hollywood Ending, The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers. So before we get to our guest, Andrew, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Dan. This is by far our most current topic that we've ever discussed, in that it's really still ongoing, and the events of the book really go up through the end of last season. So when people ask, we can now formally say we've gone as far back as the 1869 Cincinnati Red Stockings all the way to the present day. So I'm glad and excited to get going.
Yaron, thanks so much for joining us for a little while here tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. Appreciate it.
So, in some ways, the title kind of tells it all. But maybe just give everybody an idea of what's the story here, and what made you want to write about this topic.
I would say this. The story is sort of like LeBron's tenure in LA. So he's going to have spent this 8-year stretch in LA is his longest in any consecutive stretch in any team, which I think is like going to be a trivia question that people get wrong in 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like you can't say it's a failure because they won a title. So my whole thing is it was a success. But if I told you that when he joined, he'd basically have at least 8 seasons, and 8 healthy seasons, you'd expect more. Maybe not more finals necessarily, but just more. Another finals run or just something, right? And so what happened and why? And to me, it touches on the things I like writing about. Like you mentioned my other book, but I'm sort of drawn to the way I describe it is the things that happen behind the scenes that we don't see that then impact the things on the court that we do see. And this just seemed like it was something perfect to explore that.
Obviously, LeBron James is going to be one of the main characters. And it's interesting because a lot of times when people write about these super duper stars in the modern day, it's almost just like, well, they were so fiery and they don't really dig below, and kind of sometimes there's a tendency to maybe gloss over the flaws in the person and just say like, well, that's the best. And this book is certainly, it's not a hit piece by any means, but you really seem to take a look at LeBron and the sort of motivations for good and for maybe not for good that go into a superstar like that late in his career, who is still very much obsessed with his legacy.
Yeah, I'm a big believer. I'm glad you said that, because it's not a hit job, and everyone it's kind of hit a point in today's media world where if I'm not saying you're the best ever, I don't agree with Stephen A. Smith on all this stuff, but I think he's right when he phrases it like this, where like just because I say you're not the best doesn't mean I'm anti you. Mm-hmm. Now he says some other things that cross into being anti him, but whatever. But like to me, I phrase it like this, and I'm talking to people around LeBron, that LeBron's a really important. It's a compliment almost, right? LeBron's a really important, not just figure in American sports, but a cultural figure in American history, which sounds crazy, but he is. And I think that means you're deserving of looking at the person from a 360 perspective. And it doesn't mean a hit job, but if LeBron becomes known for walking around with books that aren't past the first page. Like that's going to be part of his legacy. It's something we need to add in there. We can also add how hard he works and the stuff he did around voting and like the real stuff he's done around that has had a real impact. It's like it all goes in there, but you put all of it. I'm a believer in that, and I think that's kind of what. If someone's sitting down and reading a book, I'm a believer that they're owed that, and I'm also. Not to sound too haughty-taughty, but like books, I think they sort of become this historical document of something, and people look back at them when someone's going to want to look back at this era. 20 years, they're going to not just my book, but they're going to pick up books. Like books is somewhere you go, and I think it's important to have the accurate representation.
And Dan, I'll back to you in 1 second, but I just wanted that's something we've talked about with historical figures who most of whom are long dead, but a Ty Cobb or a Jackie Robinson or something where it's like the real guy is interesting enough. We don't need to turn them into a cartoon character. And obviously LeBron is still alive and there's much more footage and contemporary accounts of him, but it's like, you don't have to tell this. You can tell an actual story about an actual interesting person without just saying, everything he ever did was perfect because he was so good, or, he was this total narcissist prima donna. Like, if you're going to write the book, which you did and did a very nice job in, tell every asset of the guy or aspect of the guy that you can. So
yeah, it's boring. It's boring as a reader and it's boring as a reporter to just like tell the same stories over and over that people know. Like you want people want to learn something new or see something new or feel like they walked away. You're spending hours, multiple hours, depending on how fast or slow you read with a book. Like you're owed something, right? Something deeper.
Were you surprised at the level of dysfunction that you found with all these guys, sort of with LeBron at the center of the orbit, but then there's the buses, there's the front office. Were you surprised at the level of dysfunction in this organization?
I would say yes. I mean, I kind of had an idea, but I would say yes. I was surprised how insular it sort of is. I know it's something that people know, but just the idea and how much Jeannie Buss relies on people she's close with, like Rob Pelinka and Linda Rambis specifically, how much she relies on them to sort of filter in information and perspectives. So yeah, sometimes I joke and sometimes I wonder and almost feel bad. So I live in New York. I cover the Knicks a lot. My last book was the Sixers, which there's a level of dysfunction there. And here too, and I remember talking to friends being like, am I just being unfair? Like if you put this microscope to the Indiana Pacers or any team in the Orlando Magic, would you find a similar situation, right? And maybe, I don't know, but this did feel next level.
Well, and it was funny because I was just, as I was jotting down notes before the interview, there's so many people that just don't come off well in one way or another.
Whoops.
No, and that I think accurately, but, LeBron, I mean, AD kind of maybe a little bit, not as poorly as some others, but the Ball family never comes off well. Obviously, people in the Buss family don't come off well. Pelinka, although I think you certainly are crediting to his basketball mind just some of the inherent oddness of making up stories of things that could just not have taken place. Magic Johnson doesn't come off well. He comes off as very temperamental and just kind of strange and maybe over his head. So yeah, yes, maybe there's some, you spend a week in anybody's house for a week, they're going to seem like a dysfunctional family, but this felt like more than just that.
Yeah. Is there a question? You want me to answer something or just
no? Give me your thoughts there, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll separately. So listen, Magic. So Magic separate. Let's talk about Magic for a second. So Magic 1 is they're talking about like public figures who matter and are important. Again, in American history, it sounds like a little crazy, but Magic Johnson's a really important, famous figure, and I think it's important to capture the idea that he was borderline abusive in the workplace. A mix of that plus non-attentive, right? So from that perspective, 100%. Yeah, I mean, just carry Rob Pelinka. Rob Pelinka is funny because I keep getting asked, and like Rob Pelinka is maybe my favorite person that I've written about in a long time. I just am endlessly fascinated with him. Like reading it because there's some stuff that's negative in there, but like I love Rob Pelinka. I've spoken to him personally 3 times, but just as a writer, and I hate using this term, but just as a character, he's unbelievable. He's just unbelievable, and he's almost got this like Forrest Gump, which is a cliche, but this Forrest Gumpian nature to him of like being around really important basketball history and historical figures and moments. So it's and being involved in them, like starting with being part of the Fab Five teams in Michigan, and then talk about like being around important people. So Mitch Albom, the famous sports writer, but more famous for mawkish memoirs, is writes a book about the Fab Five. If you read it, he clearly likes Rob Pelinka a lot. Like he's clearly drawn to him. So Rob Pelinka's a big figure in there. And then he's Kobe Bryant's agent, which is obviously that's like being side by side with this really important NBA figure. And then Lakers GM, he's going to end up being the Lakers GM for 15 years or whatever the total number is. And LeBron and Luka, and he's just around. So and he wears his leather jackets and he says weird things and like he's misquoting the Bible. But he's also seemingly like he seems to really mean well, but it's this really strange combination. Forget the Bible's quoting, but of somebody who truly seems to be like a family man and really mean well, mixing with people saying that guy's a liar. I can't trust the word he's saying. There's this paradoxical nature to him that I'm just fascinated by. And I wasn't even able to. I talked to so many people and I couldn't even pin down where this sort of switch came, when this streak of ambition was unlocked for him. I don't remember the question. What was the question? I don't remember the original question, but just the characters, right?
Yeah.
Like Rich Paul, I love. I think that's one of the things that drew me to this book. I kind of knew they're just these really interesting people here that you get to write about with really interesting backgrounds and stories.
To me, the part at where you sort of started pick up the narrative, and I think it's where you have to when you're talking about the modern day Lakers, meaning post the last Kobe run, is the end of that run with Kobe. And look, we obviously understand that he passed away tragically and don't want to take issue with that, but they were really sort of held hostage by him the last 4 or 5 years, where they knew how much he meant to the franchise, but like he was also actively choking their ability to be a good basketball team by both just his presence, and he was never going to be the kind of player who commanded the floor really. But I wonder if you could just talk, he was always going to be the kind of player who commanded the floor. He was never going to fade into the background and let other guys take a bigger role. Can you just talk a little about the last few years of the Kobe era and the organization knowing they needed to move on, but not really being able to?
Yeah, well, interesting. I would say I don't know that they knew they needed to move on, which was their mistake, right? Now I don't know what you're supposed to do because it is a tough position, but they gave him a golden parachute of a contract, and he had no interest in. Forget even how it's funny because he loved the Lakers, but he was not here for helping pave a path towards a post-Kobe future. He was going to play his way. The young players did not like him. They respected him. Let me rephrase. Not they didn't like him. They didn't enjoy their time there in those years. Like respect's the wrong word. Revered him, right? I mean, everyone remembers the famous viral video. They're soft like Charmin. Him telling Mitch Kupchak, chewing out. I don't remember who it was. Maybe Jeremy Lin. I don't remember who it was. He was making fun of. I love this story. D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell was there, I think, for a year with Kobe, and he told me, it's in the book, but he told me a story that they'd be waiting for the bus, and it's Kobe's last year, and he's having wine with the referees, and they have to wait to get out, just taking over. And he was so miserable there that when I approached him to do an interview for the book, I go up, and usually you go up and you kind of have your whole. I use a word from my forefathers, but your whole spiel ready, right? Where it's sort of like your pitch and here's what I'm going to say, and kind of, we can talk about it later. Here's what I'm thinking, and I'm doing this book, and anytime we can reach out through PR. He goes, no, let's talk now. I hate my time with the Lakers, which is hilarious. And I'm like, my first question was so bad because I wasn't ready for it, and my recorder's not out. I remember I had to fumble. I think I was like, so what do you remember? And I was fumbling and trying to put my recorder on. The funniest part about that is he ends up being traded to the Lakers 2 months later, which is fun. It's just, I remember texting some PR guys from the team who had overheard that conversation and the trade. It was just a funny coda to that. Kobe left them in the darkness. He really did. The thing was stripped down and a disaster when he left, for sure.
So he leaves and they have these wilderness years, and then they bring in LeBron. Was it just how many years? I guess it was a few between. Was it 2 years post Kobe onto LeBron?
I should know this by heart. 2 or 3. I don't remember. So it
was a few. What do you think? but what motivated LeBron to go to LA? Was it the Lakers? Was it LA? Was it kind of the Bus family? What drove him there?
It's interesting, right? So to this day, like you'll get different answers. It's a mix. Right? So there's a few. He wanted to set up his post-playing career, but he wasn't really right. I mean, again, he's played 8 years since, so it's a lot. Like, did you hear like there's the Hollywood movies, but what does he end up doing? He does one movie, Space Jam, and that's really it. He wasn't chasing contention anymore because he joined a team that wasn't ready to win. He knew it. He wasn't very clearly. It became very clear early on that he wasn't actually okay with that. But in theory, he was joining a team that was not ready to win. There's talk about people will say his wife wanted to move. He wanted his kids to be there. It stands out because if you look at the other moves he's made, there were specific singular reasons. So why does he go to Miami at first? Because he wants to win, right? He hasn't won. He knows he needs to win for his legacy. And then why does he go back to Cleveland? He wants to fix the narrative around that and decision and bring a title home. And why does he go to LA? It's sort of like, there's nowhere else really to go, honestly. It's kind of like inertia. Like, where is he? He's not going to go to a random team. He's such a big brand. He's an icon. So who can really who can absorb him? It's a weird analogy, but it's almost like the Avengers rings and like who could put on the Infinity Stones and like with a thumb. And like the Lakers are the only team that can really handle it. The Lakers and the Knicks, and he just wasn't going to go to the Knicks.
No one ever does. We're talking to two Knick fans here. No one ever goes.
I mean, they were a disaster, and he doesn't. It's a different world in New York too. Like people like LA. So I think it was sort of just like, again, using the same word, inertia. But that's sort of what makes it hard to get a handle and sort of analyze and judge his time in LA. Because it's like, what was the actual goal here, and did he succeed in his goal? And that's what makes it a little murky.
Just as a side note, I love when they talk. I mean, obviously being involved in like production is one thing, but when they go like, oh, he can be in movies, it's like, what movie is LeBron James going to be in where he's not just playing LeBron James?
For sure. Well, that's funny because Trainwreck, he was great, right? I think that's his band. Like, he was great, but he's LeBron. He's an extent. He's a caricature of himself, but he's LeBron there. I agree.
He's going to be in some like movie where he plays like a tax lawyer. He's 6'9". Right. Everybody in the world knows he's LeBron James.
Right, exactly. You think other people get typecasted, right? Wait till you see LeBron in a movie. Right. It didn't, and they had some production companies like his guy Maverick Carter, but even that Spring Hill, some of the reporting on that now is that not for me, but just, that they've have not done great and they're being absorbed, and just there wasn't a lot of success out there. And he's obviously done well in things, they made money, but like this idea that he was going to LA to sort of tackle Hollywood was, first of all, he could have done that from anywhere. Like now, as you're seeing with every player who has a production company and a podcast company, and like LeBron doesn't need, it's like LeBron needs to be in LA to have access to producing content.
Yeah, you hear that a lot with people with New York, being a New York sports fan, where they're like, well, wouldn't so-and-so want to play here for the advertising opportunities? It's like, it's not 1947 anymore. They don't need
right, exactly.
They'll be
exactly
fine. LeBron. We saw LeBron's face before he ever left Cleveland.
Right, exactly.
So, Dan, I don't know where you wanted to go next. I mean, did you have the LeBron comes to the Lakers? I think we all kind of know that it seems like, regardless of anybody who was there, the Lakers were the reason he went, not the coach, not the GM, whatever. You forget, unless you're covering it day to day or are a Lakers fan, just the number of coaches that have been gone through.
Yep.
I forgot that Luke Walton was the coach the year he got there. And that was, you get the sense that right away that was going to be, whether Luke Walton knew it or not, he was only going to be there with LeBron for a year, because that was not the team that he was there to coach.
LeBron. Now, it might have aged well because Luke Walton might not have been a great coach, but he decided very early on that he was not in that. He was not in on the Luke Walton experience for sure. He was not. Did not think he was the guy who can get him there.
And then there's Frank Vogel, and I feel like we should come back because the 2020 season is such its own thing, and he's there a couple of years. And then there's the Ty Lue thing was incredibly interesting to me, where they just
don't hire him.
What was it? They felt like they were being pushed around and drew a line in the sand at that point, or what exactly went on there?
It's great. It's a mix of, it's sort of all these different things, a mix of all these different things together. is that the Lakers, until JJ Redick and the Stan Hurley pursuit, they really didn't spend on coaches. They just weren't doing it. It's kind of a misnomer that, you look at the coaches that hires. Byron, for a while, it was obviously Phil, but after Phil, you have Byron Scott and Frank Vogel and Luke Walton. Like these are not super expensive coaches. And the Lakers, in their notes to me, they said something. Their response is said along the lines of like, coaching the Lakers is a uniquely special opportunity. So basically, therefore, you should take whatever we offer you and win and prove us wrong, or prove yourself as a coach. There was that. I think they were wary of the idea of that would be like a LeBron ally in the building, right? Which is ironic because I actually think one of the things that Ty Lue might have been able to do is sort of, it would have been the opposite. Like he would have the agency and political power and capital to sort of stand up to LeBron. So say, I don't know if this would be, let's say like a Russell Westbrook trade and he doesn't want it, he would be able to say, and I don't know, I mean, he got Westbrook in LA, so maybe he would like him when he was with the Clippers. But in theory, he would be the kind of person who would have the ability to say to LeBron, no, like this is bad, we're not doing this, where a lot of coaches cannot do that. So I actually think that was a huge mistake. I think it's one of these things where I know they got a title, so it feels unfair, but I do think if they hire Ty Lue, the entire tenure is very different, and there's a more stability there.
What do we make of that title? They won in 2020, but it was a very different year. It was a very different atmosphere. I always felt like there was a little bit of an asterisk next to it, only because it was not a typical season. The other sports were able to at least play their season in a chunk, even if it was shortened or whatever, but especially with an older team with LeBron and especially Howard and some of these other guys, that couple of month rest probably had to help them. But how do we assess, just from an on the court point of view, how do we assess that title?
I'm of the belief, like I don't do the asterisk thing. For me, it was like a level playing field, right? So it's different, and it probably helped them a little bit that they were able to rest up and recover, and you would kind of enter the bubble fully loaded. But again, it was a level playing field, and I actually think that it just required a different type of skill. So they were all exhausted. Sorry, they were all healthy, but there was a mental wear on it. Like the way someone explained it to me is, someone connected to the Clippers, and the Clippers famously wilted in the bubble, right? And the way it's explained to me is like it's no coincidence that the two teams that succeeded and made the finals were ones led by LeBron and Jimmy Butler, right? And the idea that there's a skill there that there was a success required a level and type of mental toughness that not everybody had, and just the idea, a commitment to the task that we are here for a reason, and no matter what's happening, we are going to power through, no matter how strange and weird this is at times. We're going to power through and do it. And I think that's almost a testament to to who LeBron is and how it comes off. It's a bit of a swipe, but like there's a bit of a front runner aspect to him, which means that when he thinks the team is not able to win, he checks out. We've seen this passive aggressive stuff, the stuff in the book. But the counter to that, when he thinks when he believes in the team, his ability to lift the group is pretty special, and I think we saw that in the bubble.
Yeah, to me, it's not an asterisk in the sense that it means less, because they did win. Somebody was going to win, and in some ways it was harder. It's just such a different thing. You know what I mean? It's such a different environment, and if that's the only one LeBron wins with the Lakers, I think either way, there's one let's say he's there 2 more years, and let's say they don't win again.
Yep.
One in a 10-year span, for a team that hasn't won a lot, that's great. If the Knicks won 1 title, I'd be thrilled to death. But that was not the expectation when he came to the Lakers, probably just past the end of his prime, but still with a lot of good years in front of him.
No, I think I agree. That's kind of where I started, right? Like one feels lacking. It really does. It's not all his fault. There's all types of stuff that's connected to it, but it certainly feels lacking. And I do think the fact that his one title on the high point of his time in LA happened in a literal bubble where there's no parade and no fan connections, I actually think it's going to hurt his legacy in LA. And like you said, I remember I was in LA a few weeks ago and talking to the Uber driver, and he's talking to me about the time, it comes up, right, book on the Lakers and all that, and it's telling me about how when in the 80s he cut he cut school to go to a championship parade, right? And these are the things that like fandom is built on. And this is not through LeBron's fault, but he just was robbed of that. And I do think this is the stuff that's going to hurt his legacy in LA a little bit. The idea that like you don't have these memories that people these important touch points are non-existent, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this era is remembered 20 years from now, specifically in LA.
And then one of the things that's interesting to me is that it kind of, there's like you said, there's no honeymoon, and partially that's because of COVID. But did they even? I think in 21 they're a play-in tournament team maybe. Like it really starts to go down pretty quick. It's not like they stay up at the top of the league even the following year.
To me, okay, so the big mistake they made where things go wrong, it's so they win the title in the bubble, and then there's 71 days until the next season. And this to me is what everyone gets wrong, right?
That's the chapter. I think that's a chapter name of one of your book.
Correct.
A chapter.
71 days. It's
name of a chapter
title,
in the book, yeah.
So, and this is the mistake people get wrong, right? So the year that was truly impacted by COVID was not the bubble year. It was the next year, because the bubble year was 2/3 complete. And then the bubble, again, it's a little nutty there, but in the end, the basketball is actually really clean. It's actually great basketball. Statistically, it was the shooting was better than we've ever seen. Level playing field, everyone's rested. That's different. The next year is the year that's, a bleep show where it's like the season starts 71 days later. You have guys in and out. Remember, health and safety protocols out 2 weeks. Remember those terms? Like that's happening you turn on a TV, you literally never know who's going to be in the lineup, right? There's never starters. Some arenas have fans. Some don't. Everything is then we're letting people in later. The traveling's nuts. We're testing. This year was nuts. It really was nuts. And the Lakers actually start off that year really well. Excuse me. And then they fall off, and they go up 2-1 on the Suns in the first round, and then LeBron gets hurt, and then AD gets hurt, and they lose. They lose in the series. And to me, this is where the mistake was made, right? So to me, I understand why it's hard to do it in the moment, but the reaction should have been, you know what, we had no shot. Like this was 71 days between seasons. It was no way. We ended the season here. Let's just not overreact, not make any major moves, tweak around the margin, see if we can get better, but just bring it back. Let's bring back Alex Caruso. Let's bring back Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. We're going to keep building this team around LeBron AD. We're not going to do anything major. Let's see what we have next year. And for some reason, both sides, LeBron and I'm not going to say clutch, LeBron and AD, but LeBron and the Lakers front office both feel like they need to add some major juice. And that's what gets us to Russell Westbrook. And they both came at it kind of on their own. And that's where, if that's the trade and that overreaction to a first round loss that, again, like you think about it when you can look at it from up high and sort of have some perspective on it, you see like it was really inevitable. And that the overreaction to that loss is and what that led to is sort of what I think throws off the entire era.
Yeah, the Westbrook thing is interesting to me because I'm born and raised in New York, but live in the DC area now, and have been a Wizards season ticket holder for many years. And that year that Westbrook was on the Wizards, it was played almost entirely without fans, but we got to go to a few games, including I was actually at the only playoff game they won that year. They won Game 4, and so that was Westbrook's only ever playoff win as a Wizard. You write about this some in the book. He played pretty well in Washington that year and didn't really want to leave.
No, and like they didn't want to trade him either, right? They did not like that. They didn't feel the need. I put this in the book. He played decently and was very Westbrookian, some empty triple doubles, but the Wizards were happy to chase the 8th seed. He was getting them there. They thought he was a good leader. Like I have examples in the book of him saying, this is Bradley Beal's team, and to young players saying, keep shooting.
Beal did well together, yeah.
Yeah, like this was not. There was no one felt desperate to make a move here until LeBron. First, him and AD and Jared Dudley are huddling, and they come up with names, and it's Bradley Beal and DeMar DeRozan and Damian Lillard, and for different reasons they don't work, whether they can't come, salary cap, can't make a trade, whatever. And so they land on Westbrook, and LeBron basically pitches Westbrook on the idea of returning home to LA and helping your hometown Lakers win a title. Westbrook was like, you know what, I can't turn that down. And then he goes to his agent and says, get me out of here. And his agent then starts doing it. His agent hears from Linda Rambis, Kurt Rambis' wife, basically saying, you're going to hear from us. And at the same time, while LeBron was doing this, Rob Pelinka was in the front office telling colleagues, like, we need a big three. We have to be like the Nets. We need more help. and sort of landed on himself. And the trade gets negotiated at a high level between Jeannie Buss and Ted Leonsis, the Wizards owner. So like everyone's in on it. Everyone is in on it. And they sort of brought. And I guess LeBron brought it. Like LeBron, I don't know if LeBron doesn't sort of start talking to Westbrook. Do the Lakers go trade for him? Maybe not. But the idea that like Rob Pelinka and the Lakers were ever pushing back on it is not accurate.
And it seems like that was a disaster pretty much immediately, right? Like,
yeah.
With Westbrook on the Lakers, or was right away it obvious like it's not?
No, I think that's one of those where like even like it's not a Monday morning quarterback thing. It's like most people saw like, oh, this is not going to work just from a basketball standpoint. And then knowing Russ's personality, and we've seen this now in like 12 teams since, right? If the basketball fit isn't there, he's not going to be able to adjust. It's an unwillingness to adjust, right? And to sort of fit in. He's not going to fit in. That's not how he looks at his game or who he is. So yeah, I think it was an obvious in the beginning. And then the team's a disaster. I mean, like I have a scene in the book where Rob Pelinka is addressing the room, and it's he goes, "This is the greatest assembly. This might be the greatest assembly of talent ever," because the names, it's Russell Westbrook, LeBron, AD, Dwight Howard, Carmelo Anthony, Rajon Rondo, DeAndre Jordan, and like it's like a dream team, except we're 12 years too late, right? And it's just it's just a disaster.
Yeah, they put together a team to really dominate the 2016 NBA season, except they did it in 2023.
Right, exactly.
I was after I finished with your book, the next book on my list is I'm reading the Athletic did their basketball 100 book a couple years back, and it's the greatest 100 of all time. And I got curious, like how many what's the most of those guys from that list of that 100 that have been on one team at one time?
Okay.
And I was looking back at like the Celtics in the 60s with Kuzi and Russell and Havlicek and the 1 year. And there's only a few times when 5 guys from that top 100 have been on the same team, and this team was one of those years. AD, Westbrook, Carmelo,
hilarious,
LeBron,
right?
obviously, and then they brought Dwight Howard back after a year away. So to think that team, not to mention Rondo and some of these other guys, 33 wins, it's really just, it's crazy that it went that poorly.
Yeah, don't forget again, DeAndre Jordan, who's
another one,
multiple All-Star. Yeah, I mean, it's a classic, a bunch of names. It's a classic mistake where you throw a bunch of names in there and they don't really mix. And that goes back to what I was saying, where like they let Alex Caruso go, and that turns out to be a huge mistake. Huge. And he talk about a perfect player. Like the ideal, I'm not going to say role player because that's almost a wrong term for him, but the ideal player to fit around LeBron and AD, like that is the guy, right? Like that is, they loved him. And they try to push it, they try to position it and sort of leak it that it was a salary cap trade, but it was done for luxury tax reasons, but that's just inaccurate. They end up spending more money on guys like Taylor Horton Tucker and Kendrick Nunn. So, I mean, you can't say it was for luxury tax reasons. It was a basketball decision, and they made the wrong one.
Wasn't there some metric that LeBron and Caruso one year were the most productive duo in the whole league? Yeah,
that was the year they played together, the bubble year, I think. But like, it was the most productive, and basically the plus minus was it was LeBron's greatest pairing. The LeBron and Caruso were the greatest 1-2 of LeBron's pairing. Sorry, the greatest pairing in LeBron's career ever. I don't know if that's still the case, but to that point it was, and it makes sense because Caruso is a mix of he's got the skill set, right? Sort of the off ball and the defense and cover LeBron, some of these things, but also he's a brilliant basketball player. So like if LeBron moves here, Caruso knows to move there, and cutting and all this stuff. It was just, I mean, Caruso's a winner. We've seen that. We saw it last year with the Thunder. You see it other times, and he was just the ideal guy there.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you to just delve a little bit more, even though this is out there in excerpts and everything. Tell us a little more about some of the Westbrook LeBron issues, because they're maybe the funniest part of the book, if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite part is the Will Smith story, right? So Westbrook, it goes poorly, and then that next offseason is when Kyrie Irving and the Nets are looking to trade him, and LeBron makes very clear that he wants Westbrook, that he wants Kyrie Irving, and the only way to do that trade with the salary cap is by trading Westbrook. So he's not outwardly saying dump Westbrook, but it's very clear what he wants, and Russ understands that. And he's annoyed by that. So he believes LeBron's a bit of a phony, and for everything you could say about Westbrook, that is not one of his issues. He's got others, but that is not one. So then there's a story where like the Lakers they have what's called a Genius Series, which is very Lakers, and they bring in like luminaries. This was started by Rob Pelinka, I believe. And they bring in guys like The Rock and Kendrick Lamar and Elon Musk and other guys. This was the old, 1.0 version of Elon Musk, or maybe 2.0 version, but not the quite today's. And then they're bringing Will Smith. Ironically, it's like 6 months after the slap, which is pretty funny. Nothing to do with it, but just random that he was showing up there. And they start off slowly. Now Darvin Ham's the coach, and the Westbrook stuff's a disaster. And everyone knows the Lakers have to trade him. The question is like when, and can they get anything for him, and what are they going to do with it with him? And so this film session ends. They're like 0-3, and Darvin Ham goes, "Okay, I'm going to go get LeBron now." And he goes out, and I'm going to go get Will Smith now. And Darvin Ham goes out, and LeBron's like, "I'm out of here. You guys got this." And AD's like, "Okay, I'm out of here too." And then Westbrook gets up and says, "Okay, we're all going." And Patrick Beverly says to him, "No, you don't understand. They're different. Those guys won a title here. You didn't. You can't. We're different." To Westbrook, that's like offensive, and they're going back and forth. And eventually, Darvin Ham comes back, gets LeBron, AD. I don't know how. I'd love to know what he said, but gets LeBron and AD to come back in. And Will Smith comes in. They do the thing. It's supposed to be 30 minutes. It's a basic question. Basic presentation. And then any questions, and one hand goes up again and again and again and again, and it's LeBron's, and so many questions. And Westbrook, the way it was described to me, is he's sitting there like you could see the steam coming out of his ears and just angrily picking a bowl of fruit. And what he says to a teammate later is, "I hate that fake bleep." And like the funniest part is later there's a picture. The Lakers post a picture of with Will Smith, like the whole team welcoming there. At the time, it got a little pickup that Westbrook wasn't exactly smiling. But now we know why. There was a background. There was a reason to it. So just the idea LeBron's a phony. What's interesting to me is, a lot of people seem to latch onto this when the story went viral and, get him Westbrook, Team Westbrook, LeBron is a phony. And the funny part is like, fine, the idea that the Westbrook experience in LA went poorly because LeBron maybe has some lack of authenticity to him is just not what happened there. It was Westbrook's fault, but it's kind of telling of how people feel about LeBron.
What makes you say it's Westbrook's fault?
I mean, he played like look at his basketball card. He played like crap.
Yeah, there is that.
And he just wasn't. He has showed no interest in or willingness to sort of adjust his approach in his game.
Yeah, and I think he even struggled with that a little bit post Lakers. I think there was some of the same issues in Denver, and so you're right.
The Clippers for sure,
yeah.
Just one last area that we hadn't touched on that I have to bring up, who I consider to be the star of the book, probably unintentionally, but the Lakers representative that is sponsors throughout. It's hard to write a better. It's like a defensive public relations or like a press secretary for a politician trying to explain away scandal after scandal. Yeah. The suggestion that they would do this is ludicrous. The suggestion that this would happen is absurd.
Yeah.
So just sort of and I know obviously there's been big news with the Lakers ownership in the last several months about Jeannie Buss finally selling the controlling interest in the team. How did the top level of the organization work for most of the time? First of all, how was it supposed to work in terms of these different factions? And then how did it work in actuality? Because it seemed the level of chaos seems unsustainable on a daily basis.
So the short answer is I don't fully know, right? What I mean is like, what it seems to me. So okay, let's phrase it like this. So if you look at those responses, either they're lies, right? So a lot of the responses, I think I said, either they're lies, but I wouldn't accuse someone of lying, or information wasn't always being filtered up to the top, right? And that is sort of where it seems to me that the way I phrased it is that Jeannie Buss, this was surprising to me, and I understand the psychology of it after your brothers try to steal the team from you and Magic Johnson betrays you, and why you then surround yourself with people you trust, but that she surrounded herself with people she trusts, namely Rob Pelinka and Linda Rambis, and there sort of became this insular nature to how she would get her information and what would be relayed to her and what she knows is happening. And maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but she trusts them so blindly and so wholeheartedly that she is willing to. She's not micromanaging. Maybe that's the way to put it. There's definitely not micromanaging, right? And maybe that's the answer. So like this Lakers representative, where you see, again, I don't remember if I said to you guys now already, but like Linda Rambis, the idea that she doesn't talk to agents. When it's you can it didn't. This I did some good reporting in the book. Finding out that agents talked to Linda Rambis was not any special reporting. That was they could like spin like a wheel and it's called dial an agent, and you'll find out that happened, right?
Yeah.
And that the Lakers would say that that's not true is just, again, either it's like a blatant lie, which would be strange, or just somebody not realizing, right, or recognizing the level of that. And I sort of land on the latter there.
Were you surprised that she finally is? I mean, obviously the dollar values that are involved.
No, I'm going to cut you off. I'm surprised, and I don't think it's being analyzed enough, right? So everyone talks about the dollar values. To me, she doesn't need money. Like this idea that why we still don't fully know why she sold. I mean, she doesn't have to explain it, but she was always a swing vote, right? So the way it's basically broken, there are 6 kids. You need 4 to 2 to sell it. The 2 younger ones never wanted to sell it because they'd end up with the team eventually. The 3 older ones wanted to sell because some of them needed money. I'm oversimplifying this, but they wanted money. And Jeannie was always a swing vote, right? She was a swing vote. She never wanted to sell, and now she did. And why? Everyone says, well, you can't say no to that money. I don't know. I mean, they were making millions of dollars off the team anyway every year. Like, she has no kids. The idea that you need a generational wealth, it's fine, but this is a person who's positioned herself as, I am taking care of my dad's legacy and this thing that he wanted in the family for generations. And now 10 years in, she's cool, or whatever it is, 15 years in, she's cool selling it. I mean, fine, but I don't, we haven't been given a good answer. We haven't been given any answer. But to me, it's too easy to say, well, for the $10 billion, like, I don't know, she was fine. She doesn't need that valuation. She doesn't need that cash. And if she needed the cash, she could have sold a minority stake for, let's say you don't get, you get less because you're not selling the majority, but you can get your cash. So let's say you sell 15% at a $5 billion valuation. You can still get your cash and still run the team. So I genuinely, I don't know why she sold the team, and I would love to hear her explanation because I don't think we've been given one yet.
It's really puzzling to me. So thank you for for filling in some of that information. You're right. I don't know if we'll get a satisfactory answer, but it was. I mean, they've owned the team since what? Her old man bought a controlling interest in the team in what, like 79, right? As Magic was coming in.
Yeah, and again, there's a Hulu documentary on the team. I think it's called like Legacy. Like this is their thing. Like the Bus family. This is what the Lakers matter to. They've always said it mattered to their father, and he wanted it in the family. And now we don't care about that. I mean, I guess that's fine, but yes, you don't owe any more explanation. But I'm just curious, and I don't. To me, it's too easy to say, oh, she had to for the money. And that's what everyone's saying. And I think that's, wrong. Or it could be not to say wrong, but I want to hear her say it as opposed to assuming.
Fair point.
I have to disagree with Andrew. My 2 favorite characters, or my 2 heroes from the book, are, first of all, LaMarcus Aldridge, because he doesn't care at all about trending on Twitter, even though the Lakers gave a whole presentation about how being a Laker would help his Twitter brand, and then he just said, I don't care about trending on Twitter. So that made me, I always liked him as a player, but that made me like him even more. And then I also like, although I hope he still doesn't do this, but I also like Dwight Howard for the fact that he sometimes would eat 2 dozen chocolate bars in a day. Yeah,
and then fart in the locker room. Yeah, that's a good one.
Another guy with a brief, if unspectacular, Wizards tenure.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about that. Actually.
Yeah, no, we've had a lot of guys through on the Wizards over the last few years. So I guess as we kind of bring it to a close here, I guess the question that kept coming back to my mind on this whole thing, and this is maybe a little bit delicate, and I don't necessarily mean it sort of from like a societal or a political or like a right and wrong point of view, but is it possible that maybe the problem here sometimes is that the modern NBA superstar just has way too much power as far as, up to and being able to, look at contracted players from other teams and basically decide, I want this guy on my team, and then they're able to make it happen?
I hear you. I'm going to say, like, because I've done a bunch of these. I think if you ask me to blame, like LeBron makes mistakes. I think the Lakers. If you're asking me like why they haven't done more, I put more of the blame on the Lakers. I really do. I think that's like, yeah, he likes Westbrook, and I remember talking to someone in Cleveland, and I think I put this in the book. They were like, LeBron. And there's a lot of NBA players. They like hoopers, right? They're always drawn to the Jamal Crawford types, the one-on-one guys. Like they're always drawn to those guys. LeBron's no different. There was a template. Like it was very obvious. The way you build around LeBron is shooting and defense and 2-way players. And that's what worked in Cleveland. And the Lakers multiple times seem to ignore that. So you can go like the Westbrook thing. Like they could have pushed back on that. There were other times they could have hired a different coach. They could have hired Ty. Again, I'm a believer in the Ty Lue thing. So it's not to say LeBron's he's made plenty of mistakes. He's his responsibility, and I would the passive aggressive stuff is ridiculous. Talking to someone around him, I remember saying that they're like, "Oh man, I tell him that too." I don't know. What do you want? I don't know. That's how he is. And he's not always the best teammate and all that stuff. But I think if we had some, I'm going to oversimplify it, but hire Ty Lue, don't lose Alex Caruso, realize that trading for Westbrook is idiotic. Like, these are some major moves that I think would have had the ripples would have been great on these and made a big difference.
And then I guess the real question at the end is kind of where does it go from here? Do you foresee LeBron sticking around for the next couple of years, especially with his kid there, or is this Luka's team now and LeBron's looking for the exit? What do you think happens next?
It's Luka's team. I genuinely don't think he knows. I think what we're seeing from him is I genuinely don't think he knows what he wants to do next and how he wants his this final hole. We're past the back nine. Hole 18 to be what he wants to look like. Mm-hmm. Whether he wants to be in Cleveland, LA, he wants to make sure he's on a big salary. He doesn't care. I don't think he's going to retire. I don't think this is the final year just for the. I always assumed, and a lot of people assumed that we were going to get it would be a farewell tour. And you get a preseason announcement to do that, and the fact that we haven't gotten that makes me think we're going to get one more year. I mean, I guess it could happen in January or whatever, right? I guess that's possible, but I think it would have happened already. I don't know, but I think. And I would guess we're going to get one more year. Like before next year, we'll hear farewell tour. And I would guess it's going to be either in Cleveland and LA. And I genuinely do not know where.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if Cleveland's competing for a title, if they're going to want that to become what their entire season is about. But at the same time, he can still contribute on the court, or at least as of this year. So that would definitely be interesting to see. But I guess, nobody's got any clue about that except for LeBron himself, if he even knows yet.
Yeah, I don't think he does. And that's the thing, right? So LeBron, he's still good enough, like Cleveland, not for max salary, but like he's still really good. And you drop him on that team, that makes them really good. And I think they would sign for that. They would sign up for that in a second.
Yeah, I mean, ironically, it would be kind of like what Shaq did in Cleveland that one year where they tried to bring him in to be, like a role player to win a championship. And yeah, so there definitely are, there's precedent for that, but it'll definitely be interesting to see. But this was a really fun read. And I think I blazed through it in about a day and a half. And it was just, it was fascinating, all of this stuff. So even the stuff that I thought I already kind of knew, it was just so much more detail to kind of talk about, really kind of a microcosm of a lot of different things in the modern NBA.
I appreciate it. No, I mean, I loved it. I wanted to write about this stuff because I thought these were important people. And like as an NBA writer for the past 10, 15 years, it's like, you know what? I want to hit this stuff. Like this, I want to get my say in and just like, when I retire in a million years, say I covered this era. So I appreciate you guys saying that. I'm glad you seem to have appreciated and got in the book,
No, we really did. And the thing is that it's, there's so many great books out there of every era of the Lakers, and this era needed its own story to be told. And we think you definitely did that here. So very well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And I guess, Andrew, do you have anything to add before we sign off?
No, I think we covered it. I mean, we could get through a few more free agent signings, but we got to leave some for the book. So
that's right, exactly. Well, the book is called The Hollywood Ending: The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers, and our guest has been the author, Yaron Weitzman. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. It's a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
No problem. And until next time, I'm Dan Newman.
I'm Andrew Newman. Goodbye, old sports.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, We're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.